Hi, and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of a Fireside chat about taboo topics, a series of conversation I have with people to speak about things I find aren't nearly enough talked about in our society. And today I'm here with Tanya Allaire. And Tanya, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes. Hi. Yes, my name is Tanya. I am a life coach and therapist and podcaster also. And I specialize, I guess, in mood disorders mostly. And most of my work is in some way, shape, or form linked to anxiety and depression because I've gone through a lot in those aspects and because it tends to be the issues that the clients that gravitate towards me have, which is how the universe works, I guess. So that's basically me in a very small nutshell.
Yeah, the ways of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And before we dive into our topic today, which is about grief, I'd like to have a little cycle check-in.
Yeah.
So please share, if you feel comfortable with that, share what day of your cycle you're on and 3 words that describe your energy today. And you can also say if you want me to go first.
I can go first. I don't track. I've tried a few times. I know how important it is, and I never get around to it. I know that my bleed started on August 4th, if that helps in any way, shape, or form. So I'm kind of midway somewhere there.
You're on day 12 then.
Oh, okay. So day 12. For me, it means nothing, but if it does, it's perfect. I don't know if it's linked to anything, but I'm feeling very, I'm very tired. That's what I'm feeling quite tired, but I feel very vulnerable, I guess. Even my skin, it's kind of, I'm feeling very close to myself, which is amazing. Usually what happens also, but I'm feeling vulnerable and um, sensitive and a little bit emotional. I would say for who I am, which is not that emotional on most days, that's kind of what I'm bringing to this chat today.
Wow, thank you. And it sounds as if it was perfect for our topic of grief.
Yeah,
to
I think
be
so.
in that space.
Yeah.
I'm on day 17 today, and I likewise feel very tired, but also settled and grateful for everything that has happened today, grateful for having this chat with you as a closure of my day. As of the time of recording, it's 10 p.m. at night where I live, which is okay considering that I'm a night owl. And just today it feels like a little late. And I want to just bring whatever's here, the tenderness to the table too, because I think that's where magic happens, when we are just ourselves, when we show up as we are in each given moment. Yeah.
I
So
agree.
acknowledging our state, the states that we're in. Yeah, thank you, Tanya, for agreeing to be here for this chat about grief.
My pleasure.
We are going to, we discussed this beforehand. There was not like the major loss or anything that happened recently that brought this conversation about, but we still find that it's a topic that isn't often talked about, even though many people might experience it, not even knowing they experience grief. So I would like to invite you to just share what makes grief such an important topic for you.
It's really an emotional state that I'm quite familiar with. I'm not, sometimes I'd like to be, I'm not one of those glass half full, happy-go-lucky people where that, happiness kind of comes naturally or kind of by default. I don't wake up happy, let's say. It's not. And I think I've pretty much always been that way. There's always kind of this heaviness, and it doesn't feel like sadness most of the times. It feels like heaviness, but it's kind of always there. And I have learned to accept it, and I've learned to not decide that sadness is my only default mode. I just need to work a little bit more to go to the happy side and go create more happiness in my life. It doesn't come as easily for me. And no, there's nothing that's happened recently. I've been very busy, but my life has been going great since October. It's been amazing. I have new projects. I have a lot of great things to look forward to in the future. So it's a little bit easier to not feel that heaviness so much and to taste that happiness. But I'm 45 years old now, and there are a few things in my childhood that happened that were traumatic for sure, but I think I was definitely made to be somebody that could sense and feel other people's grief, other people's sadness, other people's heaviness. And I don't know how you can do that efficiently in a very humane and true, authentic way if you don't know those states for yourself. So it worked out perfectly. And so in a way, I am dealing with grief pretty much all the time. If it's not with my clients, then it's mine. And if it's not mine, then I'm grocery shopping and I feel somebody's grief on the other side of the aisle. So it's always there, and I'm always quite sensitive to it, I think. Yeah.
I can totally relate to this sense of heaviness that you described. I myself have also, I've been a very deep, thoughtful, thinking child. And I think in this society that we live in, it's often so encouraged to, hey, be positive.
Yeah.
And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if it's forced, it isn't authentic anymore. It isn't you. And I believe that we need to process what's here in the moment. And then most often, at least that's what I find, is that on the other side, kind of the clouds part again. When I've done my processing, the clouds part on their own, and I don't even have to do anything to be more happy or have a more positive outlook again. I don't know. What's it like for you?
It's the same. Yeah, I think the hardest periods of my life, definitely a burnout that I experienced a few years ago, it was resisting the grief or whatever was there. It was resisting joy at a certain point, to be honest, but just not wanting to be where I was emotionally at any given time. That's the suffering. The pain is inevitable. We know it. I think we know it rationally, but when we're living it, I thought for a long time that it would engulf me, I guess, that it was way too big. And there was this enormous monster, and I had to fight it. I had to fight it when it showed up to survive. And it makes so much sense. It's how we're built. Our minds try to fit things into boxes and create links, and our ego steps up and says, whoop, no, this is dangerous, and we need to swallow it back down. But that's how it got to be so heavy, is after swallowing and swallowing, then I think, especially at a young age, I thought that by swallowing my emotions down, they would just dissipate or they would just disappear. And it, of course, doesn't work out that way ever. And when I finally couldn't keep on living my life that way, then it kind of came all bubbling back up. And then I had a lot to process because I hadn't for so long. And I think by not processing it, I had a very blurred vision of who I was and what I was capable of experiencing. And it took me a long time. It was a lot of unpacking, to do to make it easier for me to kind of welcome these emotions before they became overwhelming.
It's as if you're telling my story just with a different main character. For me, it didn't end in burnout. It ended in anorexia and OCD, which is also all just to follow down the emotion, keep them down, not get them out. And it's interesting. We visited friends at the weekend, and they have a 4-year-old girl, and she is struggling with having intense, deep emotions like that. And luckily, her parents, my friends, they are really conscious about that and allow her to let them out. For example, scream when it just needs to get out. And I'm like, how often do I sit here and would love to just scream the house down, but I'm mindful that there are neighbors who wouldn't understand. And just that's this process that happens when we let it out in the moment, or like around that moment. You can't always do it right away, but if we take time to as soon as possible process it, it's over so much more quickly than when we stuffed it down.
Totally. I love those kids. Before, not, of course, because I was looking at them as, if I have to swallow my emotions, could you please swallow yours, right? And then it was so backwards and I love the parents that are getting it, that are getting how important it is. And this is kind of new. I've been exploring not only welcoming whatever emotion, let's say it is sadness. Let's say it's not grief, it's sadness. When it shows up for me, and it's physical, I mean, it's something that happens in the body. It exists. It's kind of weird that we've all collectively decided to kind of brush them aside as if they are not valid. If it's there, it exists. It's a movement. And now I'm trying to not only welcome it, not swallow it down or do whatever with it, and not attach a story to it. Really just respect it as is. So I've been, let's say, feeling sadness. I realize quite quickly that it's sadness. And then I just stay there. Also, there's sadness. And I open up. It's nothing that I really have to do, but I just don't close off, I guess, and let it up. Let it bubble up, take the expansion that it needs. I only have to wrestle my own mind that tries to make it fit. Why are you sad? Before we're sad, we need to know, what is this, right? So I kind of just I swallow that down, basically. I just push that aside. We'll chat later. And I let it have its moment. And honestly, sadness is gone maybe 5 seconds, maybe, if 5 seconds, and we're done. And it's done. And it felt good. It felt good not to swallow it back down, but it felt good to have that moment. It's usually something that I can have for myself anywhere, because it's not, I don't need the tears or anything. It's really just letting that movement kind of move through my body. And then that's it. And then usually I don't even need the information. I know it was there. I know it was valid. It went through and it's gone. And I'm good. I'm back to status quo. And I'm kind of in this equilibrium and I'm okay. And so that's it. And it's been amazing It's been amazing because, yes, sadness before could last half a day, at least, if not ruin a weekend. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer once you've tasted the experience of how simple and loving it is to just let it be, let it out. If it's anger, I have a lot more issue with that. It's kind of more, it's more tricky, but it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same deal.
Yeah. And I want to relate it back to grief in the sense that I had someone with me, Heide Dunstan, who is an expert kind of on grief because of her own story. And she says grief is not just one emotion. Grief is sadness and anger and joy and everything. It's a mixture which can change like from one moment to the next. And that's so beautiful when we learn how to be with what is in the moment. And I can only say, well, for me, it's rarely done in like 5 seconds. I will sit on the floors, not crying, feeling like I'm torn apart for 10 minutes or 15. But then it starts to lighten on its own. Once everything is out. And so everybody can like find their own way of how this works. Would you say that soul-based coaching, because I know that you are training as a soul-based coach, has helped you process that even more easily than before?
I'm really in the beginning of the training, but yes, it has, because first off, I have to unlearn a lot of coachy stuff, let's say. So it's a lot of unpacking, and it's put me in quite of an interesting position because I feel very vulnerable. I don't feel like I'm first in class at all. And I was kind of going into, oh, I'm already a coach, so I'm probably going to impress some people. And it wasn't the right attitude, and it wasn't the experience. And now what I love about it is it's all welcoming. It's all allowing. That's what it is. And it's a little bit more complex than that. And yet it's not. It is exactly that. It's just allowing who you are in the moment, ever changing, always, what you're bringing to the table. And in a 20-minute session, coaching session, the range of emotions that I can go through as the coachee, but as the coach also, which is also quite fascinating to me, has helped me, has benefited me in so many ways. And I can't imagine in June what I'll be saying about the training, because it wasn't about that for me. It wasn't about that. It was performing. It kind of always felt like I was auditioning. I heard the woman say that recently, and it struck me like lightning. And I remember thinking, yeah, I was auditioning for my parents. I was auditioning for friends. I was auditioning for teachers. It was performing. And now unlearning that, as I said, is very uncomfortable for me, very. But everything that I get to experience now is real. So there's no, I mean, it is amazing. It is amazing. The experiences are so rich. The connections that we're making with each other in the training is so rich. So whether it be grief or any range of emotion, it's kind of settling in and knowing that you're safe, that you're safe. It's always a loving intention of your body, of your soul, of your mind, to connect back to something that's important to you, to connect to something that is truth inside of you. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and I asked that because I mean I am a certified soul-based coach, but like I have found for myself in my journey, as well as for the clients who come to me, that having this very non-judgmental attitude of everything is welcome. Let's just see what's happening. And having these questions of, and where is that emotion, and what would it like to have happen, and what would you like to have happen when that's what the emotion would like to have happen, and just this whole process, it's kind of self-facilitating yourself processing an emotion, or facilitating a client processing the emotion, which makes it, as you say, it takes the story away. And usually our minds are just wrapping and creating this whole story of where it comes from and what it wants to tell me. Oh, I don't know what it wants to tell me. And then we get frustrated about the stories that we are creating ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
And instead, just as you described earlier, just focusing on, yeah, okay, it's here. I let it bubble up. Where is it? Pushing or putting the story aside for a moment. Yeah. And then sometimes the story isn't even important anymore once you're through. Sometimes there's still value to be had out of thinking about, oh, why did I react that way? Or why did that come up? Yeah. And sometimes it's just what it is. And we can go on with life.
Exactly. And listening to you, it's funny, I didn't really realize how much information was locked in our emotions. Whatever information that our minds are trying to grab onto the story to make sense of it, you're already getting into the emotion. And it's a direct link to your gut, to your heart, to your being. So I think I started playing with that when I realized I think words kind of take me away from the information that I'm so desperately trying to fathom and to figure out. The emotion is pure. It tastes like sadness. There's nobody could say or tell me that it isn't, or convince me that it's something else. I'm feeling sad. Okay. Now, if I'm always feeling sad when I'm with this particular person, of course, yes, this information is super important and needs to be taken into consideration. Something is happening. But most of the time, and I think pretty safe to say, if you're somebody that's been swallowing down a lot of emotions for a long time, then that cocktail that we're carrying is kind of a mix of so many things. A trigger, a smell can trigger like 50, I don't even remember. It's an insane number of memories. So how is my mind gonna, sorry, that's my turn. How is my mind gonna stifle through that and try to make sense of it? I'm feeling sad. It's the shortcut. I'm feeling sad, or I'm grieving this choice that I have to make, and I'm not looking forward to losing out on either one of these two different poles. So why do we need to have more information than that? And even clients that come to me, I think there's an unlearning there. I think we are meant to, oh, okay, this sadness is mine and I need to do something with it. I need for it to be, I need to be efficient. We're kind of always micromanaging everything, and emotions aren't built for that. It makes no sense. That's not what they're there for at all.
True. And like that, the reason why I love talking or bringing these topics up is because they are so not talked about in the societies we live in. That's like, yeah, I don't know if you've got the same expression, but like put under the carpet.
Yeah.
And
we do.
like,
yes,
you are looked at strangely if you express them, let alone in the open.
Yeah.
And I've listened to a podcast recently that talked about grief being also part of this, like society, having the societal aspect that, for example, when you lose someone and there is grief because of that, that you feel like you have to be the strong one and not let it shine through because you don't want to worry other people and be a burden on them. So you have to just hustle through and you have no time to process. And I think it's like that in a lot of situations, that with the emotions we feel, either because we don't understand, or like our brains can't make sense of it, don't understand why we feel that way, or we feel like it's inappropriate to feel that way. So we start judging ourselves and our emotions instead of just letting them come up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's hard. And I mean, these past years were the perfect scenario for us all collectively. And I think a lot of us are. That's why we're having these conversations more and more, I believe. It's really a matter of, I have to hide my emotions, so you better hide yours, because I'm not going to trigger you, you don't trigger me. So I know that if I cry, there are a few situations I think that society kind of allows some, like if somebody that you love is passed on, okay, you're allowed a bit. But even then, not too long, not anywhere, and not too loud, right? There's something just... So we're kind of all walking on eggshells, and a lot of us are suffering quite a bit. And it's breaking down. The system, of course, is breaking down. We can't maintain. So a lot of people are in burnouts, and a lot of people are in depression, can't work, can't get out of bed, don't understand why. And of course, we can't maintain the system. We're not built for that. We're feeling beings. That's how we connect. And connection is being human. So it has to change. And yeah, I think one conversation at a time, we'll get there. And some people really do, I think, still believe it's not allowed. So hearing people not only speak about it, but have those small, medium, and big outbursts in public, in broad daylight, and see that the person is okay and sane, and that you can come back to an evened out kind of state, mental state, emotional state, and spiritual state. And it's temporary. It's like a cloud that passed by. I think more and more people, and especially young people, because it was such a disservice. It's violence. Deciding to educate young people who don't have the same coping mechanisms that we have as adults, that are often completely unhealthy, by the way, but still.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if we have them, but yeah, we have unhealthy ones.
We have a few, yes, we have a few, and they don't, and they don't get to have the tantrums because no, and they don't get to steal their toy back when it's being taken from them, and they don't, and I'm a mom. I am absolutely guilty of that also, because I didn't know. But it's important. It's really, really important, because life can be hard and can be harsh. And if on top of that, you're not allowed to feel the reaction of it, of course, a lot of people just don't want to do it. I mean, what's the point? What's the point in going through these hard times if I absolutely need to mask everything that it's going to move inside of me? It's too hard. So I'm going to avoid situations, I'm going to avoid people, and I'm going to avoid feeling. So back to the
I'm
coping.
going to avoid life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's life.
That's life.
It's
That's
messy.
Life. It is. And it's getting messier. I don't know if you have that. It's getting messier. I think it's necessary and there's hope there, but it's getting quite messy. So,
and maybe it's just getting messy because we already come from this kind of controlled state, right? It maybe has always been that messy. We just didn't choose to see it, didn't allow it, didn't allow to see it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And once you see it, once you feel it and see it, there's no going back, is there? It's kind of, yeah, I'm transformed now. That's how I'm living now. I can see things that I normally would shove under that carpet that aren't going back under anymore. But at the same time, if you shut off, you shut it all off. So you're shutting off the beauty, you're shutting off the joy, the laughter, the marveling moments of just simple synchronicities that we're all kind of privileged to bump up against on a daily basis. It's all shut off. So you're sleeping through your life if you're not allowing those waves, those roller coaster waves that are uncomfortable sometimes and can be quite I don't know, they change you. So there's an allowing there. You need to be open and available for life if you want to kind of live it, kind of.
It's this vulnerability that you have started with, that we've talked about. This vulnerability of, okay, this is what it is, feels uncomfortable. I don't feel comfortable telling you, but I'm opening myself as a human being, and that's the level where connection happens between humans or other life forms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, there's no intimacy without it. There's no true connection. There's no love without it. And there's not, I don't know that there's something better to offer to somebody else. I'm there for you. What we're learning in soul-based coaching, I'm holding space for you and everything that is in this moment. That is connection. Without that, well, you're chatting about the weather, maybe, but it's not, you can miss out on quite a lot of depth if that's your choice, and you don't have to choose it. So
true. And like the way you speak about it, like it's, yeah, I totally get what you mean, because I'm one for the depth and to go deeper, and I'm a Scorpio sun, so that's kind of my jam. But yeah, there are people who either don't feel that deeply, don't want to connect that deeply out of their nature. And then there is also those who choose not to, and you're free to choose whatever you like. We just say that sometimes going deep makes you feel more alive.
Yeah, if you're not doing it out of fear, because you're right. I mean, there's some people, of course, that are just either quite happy, but that might be listening to us and say, I don't understand which waves that you're talking about. So that's perfect. And honestly, there are some days that I envy you quite a bit. So there's that. But if it's out of fear, I always have this image of people walking around kind of without any skin. There's something so much more vulnerable about how I was doing life before, being afraid of every experience, every encounter, all the time. Even me with me was much more uncomfortable, much more of a vulnerable state to be in, because I felt attacked all the time and fearful all the time. So always under threat, whether it's there or not. I feel a lot stronger, a lot more confident now that I know these depths in myself, and I'm learning every day. There are always new levels, always, but that's how I found myself. But that's how I found the solidity of being, my 2 feet inside of myself, inside of my life, actually owning this very fleeting time that I've been gifted for however long I get. That's the other thing. So I don't see it as having wasted years. I did for a while. That's not it. I understand why that had to be, and I was quite fearful, and I kind of had to survive. But now, I don't know, everything tastes so much more vivid and is so much more part of me. Like, it feels like I'm leaving, I was going to say a legacy, hopefully, but I'm leaving my traces that I've been here because I've actually lived these few last years. So I don't know. I mean, it is a choice, but I'm glad I made it.
It's all about choice, the power of choice. It's true. I hope we have sparked a lot in everyone's minds and hearts and bodies. We are happy to continue the conversation. If you would like to reach out to both of us, either one of us, Tanya, where can they find you if they would like to reach out?
I am a bilingual coach. So in English, you can find me at The Pact 2022. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I like to, I love quotes. And so I like to pick a quote every day and to expand on these inspirational ideas. And it's just my fun way of reaching out. As a coach, you can find me at Veritas Coaching. I have a website and also a Facebook page.
I will link everything, definitely.
Thank you very much. I will send that all to you gladly.
And so I suppose the other language is French.
Yes, exactly. Good. Language is French, yes. And the podcast is also French and English. So French is Sur le divan, and the equivalent is On the Couch. So it's an English series that I've started to, again, hopefully reach. My goal, honestly, is I suffered through a lot of this stuff alone in my doing because I have a great support system. It's just I have a hard time raising my hand for help. So those are the people that I'm trying to reach, these people that are suffering right now and feel alone or actually are alone. So I offer different services to try to help them feel like, of course, you're not alone. A lot of people have been through the exact same or very similar situation, and let's just talk about it. Let's just, exactly what you're doing with your podcast, exact same thing. Let's just make it easier on all of us, shall we? So that's
yes, please. We are all in this together. We are all human beings.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Do you have some last words that you would like to share, or maybe the message that you would like to tell the listeners?
Maybe specifically on grief. And going back to that raising of the hand, if you're going through it right now, and if you know why, so if there's something obvious that you've gone through that explains it in a way that makes sense to you or not, reach out, call somebody. Hopefully there's people that love you, and the idea that you're a burden to them is false. It just is. And so the people that are worth your time, your efforts, your energy, and your love should be there for you if you're suffering. So give them a chance to prove them that they are.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I have to say this, but the belief that you could be a burden is a big fat lie. Patriarchy is trying to tell us, to spoon feed us every day, because they don't want us to join forces. Because if we feel connected versus alone, then we will question the systems we live in. And that's their greatest fear.
I like that. I like that. I love that you said that. You're right. Even more reason, raise that hand. Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Don't let them win. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Tanya, so much for being here today
My
with
pleasure.
me. And
thank you so
yeah,
much for inviting me. This was fun. This was really, really fun. Thank you.
you're welcome. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.